Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the McHan Show. Today's guest is Cassie Vera with Rooms for Restoration. I'm going to let her tell you what she does here real quick. So stay tuned. It's amazing what she does for the community. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. Awesome. So Room for Restoration is about rebuilding hope, renovating rooms, restoring relationships that can change the trajectory of the lives of children of incarceration.
So you help specifically men and women who are incarcerated to help restore the bond with their child who they've had very limited interactions with.
Yes, absolutely. And it goes so much deeper. We actually, at this point, at this juncture, we don't work with men and women. We felt very led to complete these rooms in the name of the Father.
Oh, okay.
Feel like there's not a lot.
Support for men.
Yes.
There's always all this, and you're right. It's kind of two-sided coin there. There's all these things for women. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at women homelessness, there's all these homes for women, but men are shorted in a way.
Yeah, and that wasn't our original thought. We weren't really thinking that. It was just a personal calling that I felt was put on my life. And
well, let's talk about that.
Sure. I was very sick for a long period of time, about 9 months. I had gone through a lot of physical ailments, and during that time, I felt very broken down. No matter what people believe, I think we all can kind of agree that there's something higher than us.
I would agree with
something greater than us.
I think most people think that.
For me, I have a personal relationship with the Father, my Heavenly Father. And I think that was part of what was happening. I felt during this sickness, all I had time for was to study, to write.
Were you studying about incarceration?
I wasn't. And that is the really weird, odd thing. As I was going through this, I felt broken down. Things about myself that I didn't want or hadn't acknowledged started to become to fruition, such as you say you want to do all these things, and yet...
yeah, you just, some things just, you never get off the couch and do it.
Yeah. Or you want to do these things for others, but you can't even really love your neighbor. You think you do.
Well, your neighbor's
really
dog's
don't.
messing up your
That's
lawn.
Exactly it. But just really started reaching to the deep core of who I was, and that I wanted to be what I said I was. You know, I wanted to learn to be that person that was not just sympathetic and not just empathetic, but understood and lived compassion.
Try to do something about it.
Yes. And I learned something during that time. Oh, I learned a lot, but one of the most valuable things I learned was that compassion, the root word of compassion is compati, and it means to suffer with. And I know that I think generally those of us who say we're compassionate, I don't think we understand the depth of compassion. Because honestly, if we did, how many of us really do want to suffer with other people?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. I could barely get through the suffering that I was enduring.
Right.
But during that time, at the very bottom, when the pain was so real and so constant, I didn't care if I was alive or not. When I got to that place, I realized that all I wanted was compassion. That's all I wanted. I just wanted someone to be there. They couldn't fix it.
Right.
But they could be there. Yeah. So that was huge. But really how Room for Restoration started was I woke up one morning with this need to call my friend, who at the moment, I didn't remember she worked at a prison. So for me, it was a very spiritual moment. I felt that God was putting a calling on my life.
So you literally called your friend.
So I literally called my friend. But that was another breaking moment because I felt I needed to call her, but I didn't want to. And so I started questioning myself, which became very prevalent in my life. I began questioning everything about myself. And I realized it was pride. I realized that I didn't want to call her because I didn't know what I was going to say.
So you didn't know why you wanted to
Yeah.
call. You're just like,
exactly. And it was kind of strange.
You just got to call and say hi. Just let people know we care about them.
And so that's exactly what I did. I thought, okay, don't be prideful. Just call her. If nothing comes out and you don't know what you're going to say, just tell her you want to meet for coffee and make a plan. But strangely and ironically, I called, she answered, and it all poured out. I said, Christy, I really believe that God wants to use my talents and my abilities to reach children of incarceration. I think that...
And you had no idea that it just started pouring out?
It was like I remembered that she worked at a prison and it just all started coming out. And I said, I know that you deal with fathers that are behind bars. What if we could open a door to connection and communication in the present, not in the past, so that these kids can feel acknowledged and thought of and valued?
Yeah, because I would imagine there's quite a bit of a resentment from the children to their father because they're not there. And so you're providing a bridge to open that communication up.
Yeah, it's huge. Once I said it, we set ourselves on a course that never stopped. And it's been 2.5 years.
I think that's when we first met.
Right.
It was when you were doing your first
yes.
one. But in the beginning, well, I guess we should back up a little bit.
Sure.
So what do you do besides connect the past and the present with that line of communication? What is it that Room for Restoration does?
Room for Restoration, its goal is to give the incarcerated father a platform and to give the child a platform. Mm-hmm. The platform for the father is to be able to give something in action form, and also something that will last, something that becomes a daily reminder for the child. So we incorporated our love of design to create an atmosphere of importance for that child that can change their perspective of themselves, their self-worth, who they are, change their perspective of their father.
So you go in and remodel their bedroom.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm not real good about saying things clearly.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for. We try to pull it out.
Thank you.
So what they do is they go in, and in the very beginning, I believe you would actually personally go in and remodel and design, like over a weekend, you would just tear the room apart and put it back together.
Exactly. But
as things progress, you realize that was very arduous and
it's just a minimal part.
Time consuming and very expensive to travel with the supplies to the location. So now what you do is you buy all the stuff, you put it in a box, and you send it to them.
There's 2 parts to us.
Okay.
So just to make it clear, we work with the California Department of Corrections.
Okay.
They speak to the inmates. We sometimes get a chance to speak to the inmates, which is amazing because we get to share our mission and help them understand what it's all about. We receive letters of nomination for children from the incarcerated father who also write letters to their kids. So we get to view those, look at those, decide.
So is it just, do the, I guess the guards, do they have a say in who gets nominated? Can they nominate people?
That's not something that we've done.
Okay.
We work with one advocate at the prison who goes out, speaks with the inmates, explains our process, which is to nominate your child. We receive the letters. We choose a family.
I bet that's probably the most difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're all probably really, really amazing stories.
They're very heartfelt because they're receiving an opportunity that they most likely have never received before. yes, the choice is difficult. And there's no other way to explain how we choose other than we have to seek. We seek advice from our team. We pray about it. We think on it. We dwell on it for just a short while. And then we make a decision kind of based on where they're located, based on the story, based on sometimes the age of the child. Because the older they are, we almost feel like it might be the last chance that they have before they're off, before they go off into the world. And if we can change their perspective before that happens, it might change not just a trajectory for them, but the life for all of us, because they're our future. They're our future. Once we make contact with the family, because we do have to get it approved from the family. Sometimes there's situations that they don't want it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That hasn't occurred yet, but we know that that's possible.
It is definitely possible.
Yes. But so far, the caregivers, the mothers, they have been nothing but grateful because, and we had one mom say they didn't realize that their anger and resentment was stunting their child's growth. So they begin to see things. We all begin to see. It starts
a whole healing process for the whole family.
Right. Yeah. It's
sometimes people project that anger onto their child, taking out on the father for not being there.
Yes.
Which is sometimes you're in the thick of it and you don't realize what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's different because we've had a lot of positive impact. But we sometimes will get a little bit of resistance from the community only because, and we completely understand, because sometimes.
When you mean the resistance from the community, what do you mean?
Sometimes when you bring up the fact that you are creating an opportunity for an incarcerated father, for some of us, incarceration is the first thing you hear. And people have a tendency
to put up a wall,
to not see the broader scope of what is happening. If we can't stand in the gap a little bit as a community, if we can't come in and stand for that child who doesn't have the father there, I don't know if things will change. Our goal and our mission has kind of changed and evolved over the last 2.5 years because we've realized something very valuable. We talk to a lot of people in organizations that have to do with recidivism.
That's a hard word to say.
Which are fathers coming out.
And then going back in.
Yeah, and how they sometimes feel when they come out, they feel like they're still incarcerated. But what we don't really talk about a lot is prevention.
Right.
How is there a way that we can come in and prevent it before we even have to start thinking about recidivism? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And this may be that bridge to some degree to.
Yes, to some degree. Because we realize room for restoration is not a fix-all. No. It can't fix the problem, but we can be a bridge. And there are other people that can start organizations that can become a bridge. But I think if we focus on the child and realize, hey, these kids, this is really not about redoing a room. This is about restoring a relationship or bringing closure for a child.
Right.
It's about giving them an atmosphere where they recognize their value and their importance.
Well, because sometimes if you change the outside, it changes the inside.
Yes. We restore a lot. We recycle a lot because it shows that things that are broken can be restored. It gives them an opportunity to see themselves differently. Because the truth is, I think about it like this. We live in a world where mass incarceration, it's incredible. It's unbelievable, the amount of incarcerated fathers and mothers. And these children, they may not recognize it, but they're angry.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. They're bitter. They're frustrated. They feel let down. And then think about it like this, too. This is pretty crazy. We look at it as adults as okay, they did a crime. They need to go to prison. They need to pay for their
Right.
crime. We get that. We understand that process. The law is important. It's valuable.
Right.
But the law isn't what changes somebody on the inside. It's grace and it's love that changes someone.
True. True.
So even though we know it's necessary and it has to happen, for the child, they're not seeing it that way. They're seeing a mandated removal of their father.
True. So what are some of your success stories?
We have so many great stories.
Give me a couple.
Okay, one of our favorites. So you mentioned about bedrooms in a box. So what happened was, because of lack of exposure, we weren't getting a lot of people in the beginning from the Sacramento area, or the San Joaquin County, which is kind of our home base. And so we were kind of like, if there's anybody who wants our services and we can receive a letter that was validated from the prison, we're going to help that family. And we received an email from a mother in New York.
Oh, wow.
Which was crazy. That's my favorite story, though, because it's so beautiful. So the mother contacted us that her and her daughter Wisdom were having dinner with her mother, and they saw us on the news.
You were on the news?
How is that possible that they would see us on the news in New York? I have no idea, but they saw us on the news. She reached out. The story was that when Wisdom was very little, the father was incarcerated. She decided she didn't want the father in Wisdom's life, for various reasons. We can't judge that. We don't know the situation.
True.
That was her choice. At the time, she felt like it was the perfect choice. But Wisdom, when she turned 6, started asking about her dad. So then she was thrown into a new realm of, what is the best thing for my child? Sorry if I'm cutting you off.
It's okay. It's your story.
So when she contacted us, she said this could be the best way for them to meet. If he is able to give her something as an introduction of who he is. So we were thrilled. We said, absolutely, you have to obtain a letter from the father, send it to us, and we'll start. But the problem was, she didn't know where he was.
Oh my gosh.
She'd been out of contact for 6 years. So we tried. We had one avenue. We tried. We couldn't find him. And so I had to remain focused on our mission, which is hard. You often want to go off and you have to come back.
ADD.
Yes. And we said, if you find him, please contact us again. We would love to help you guys. So 3 months, I think it was about 3 months later, I get an email and she says, I found him. I contacted him. He's sending you a letter.
Oh, wow.
So we did. We got a letter stamped from the prison, and heartfelt letter of wanting to know his daughter, wanting to acknowledge her and wanting to give her something. And so we did. And that was when Bedroom in a Box was born, around that time. Okay. Because New York was so far.
Yeah. Can you imagine packing up your gear and having to drive out there?
Yes. And we don't want to be just, let's go buy brand new things, put them in a box and take. We want it to be personal. We want to make connections with these families. And so we converse many, many times through phone calls, through emails.
Were you able to talk to the father at all?
We did not get to talk to him.
Oh, okay.
We do sometimes get to talk to the father, which is great. And we often get to talk to the children. We get to know what they love, what inspires them, what motivates them, what makes them feel
like
important.
a Christmas list, huh?
Yes. We ask them things like, what's your favorite color? And if you wanted to do your room, what would you want in it? And if money was no object, what's the one crazy thing you would want in your room that you would never expect? And for Wisdom, it was, she loved planets and she wanted a swing in her room. And
swing.
It was, so it's a process, it's us contacting them. Will you check with your landlord? Can you find somebody that will come and install a certain hook in the ceiling that goes through the rafters so that it's secure? If they're willing to do that, then we go on with the process. If it's local, we do it ourselves. But so for Wisdom, we created things. We made a swing for her out of rope and a round wooden swing so that it kind of looked like Saturn. And we did a lighting fixture and did some crazy things for her, boxed it up. We found a place in Galt that delivered it for free for us, which was amazing.
They shipped it to New York for free?
Yes, they did.
Oh, wow.
Which was
pretty
crazy
cool.
and beautiful. And when they received it, the mom videoed Wisdom opening up her gift.
Oh, wow. That's
Then because the mom doesn't have any design experience, we stayed in contact and sent her videos of how to put things together and where we thought that it might look good if she wanted to.
Sends you pictures of the room and you kind of
helped her with
virtually
the
stage it over the phone.
And somehow through this crazy don't know you and in a 2-month time, I almost feel like all these women are my friends.
Oh, wow.
We make sure that we stay in contact with the moms or the caregivers for at least 2 years. We were able to help one mom who was sick. We were able to help a mom who was on the verge of homelessness. We can't do that through our Room for Restoration account because that's specifically for them. But we have the opportunity to expand
to make connections and connect them with resources and
exactly
to help
exactly.
Them. Sometimes people are just buried in what they're going through that they don't know what their next best decision is, so they just sit paralyzed waiting for something to happen instead of taking action. But here you are, you're able to like, okay, here's your game plan. You need to do A, B, and C. Call me when you're done and we'll figure out what the next step is.
That's it. And the most beautiful part of Wisdom's story was about 3 or 4 months after the room, I got pictures that she didn't want posted. We always get permission to post, but if they ask us not to, we don't. And it was pictures of Wisdom arm in arm with her dad. So when you think about a little girl who
pretty powerful.
Know she had a father, didn't know who he was, to understanding I have a dad and I have a dad who loves me. I have a dad who thinks about me. It can change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful right there. We need to think about that.
Yeah. And then can it change our future? Do we go from a world where kids of incarceration feel forgotten, dismissed, unimportant? We know.
But do you think a lot of moms are like that, where they tell them that their dad doesn't exist in so many words?
I'm sure. And again, we can't fix everything, but we can start. And we can make awareness. We can show another side. Because for Wisdom and her mom, now her mom can see, and her mom can see clearly Wisdom's actions and reactions in life based on what she was feeling. Now her actions and reactions are based on acknowledgement.
Right.
They're based on importance. The value of knowing you're important changes the way you talk to people, changes what you want to do, changes your confidence, changes your trajectory.
Probably not angry all the time.
Yeah, and not upset and angry and frustrated and fearful and anxious. There's so much research. One of the biggest things that I learned through this process, I think we all can understand there's resentment and there's some shame. There's stigma. There's more stigma than I ever imagined for children. These children don't have to serve the same sentence.
Right.
They don't have to be
very good point.
In their own prison of their own making. But the biggest thing I learned was when that father is taken, removed, because that's what they visualized. He's gone. It's a dependent relationship that's broken, and they are too young to understand what's happening.
Right.
In that, they often, and I can't say how many, but it's shown through research that they often, because they're too young to understand how to manage life, they fall into the same course.
Right. That makes sense.
As their parent did.
So how do you get funding? Like, how are you funding this project?
Right now, we basically look to through social media, friends, family. We talk about it as often as possible. We connect with recidivism programs. We connect with Concreates in LA, in anywhere where we can share our story. But we don't really get funding, and most of the time we don't get funding until we're ready to do a room. We start putting out pictures, telling the story of the family, making a plea, and we start slowly getting funding for that room. We thrift, we recycle, we find things that are completely, yes, upcycle. Find things in the barn that you would never imagine could be this, and we create something in excellence because these kids deserve it. They're unique, and we want to make the rooms unique.
So you rely mostly on the public to fund your projects.
Yes, absolutely. We can't do it without the public. I mean, the dream would be.
I would like to state in the beginning, I think you were doing it all yourself. In the first one, you paid.
I had a certain amount of money. So when all this happened, and again, like I felt like this was a calling. Strangely enough, I had saved some money, personal money, and I'd set it aside, and I knew that at some point there was going to be an investment or something was going to come up, and I was going to be able to make an investment.
Little did you know.
Little did I know was it not an investment for me.
Monetary. It was spiritually.
It was an investment for others and for their lives, but wow, what you get back is so much greater. But once we went through that, I felt very strongly that once that money was gone, then we would have to rely on people because...
Didn't at one point you thought about selling your home to do this?
No, but we did. That might have come from, we bought a home.
Oh, okay.
We sold our home to buy property, to tear down an old house and rebuild and have enough property so that when Room for Restoration grew, the long-term goal and vision,
you would have space for all your...
We would have space to create a warehouse. And get this would be amazing. And as formerly incarcerated individuals, fathers were coming out, we would be able to open another door to provide work for these formerly incarcerated fathers to come in and create dream rooms and build and create and put together boxes for other children of other incarcerated fathers. Powerful. And then we're not only creating an atmosphere of joy and hope for the children, but we're creating an atmosphere for these men
to come out.
So that would be the ultimate. In the beginning, I was so excited. I thought, oh yes, it's all going to happen within a couple of years. And now, I get that it takes so much time. But
it takes a lot of time. And what do you need from the public? What do you need to help see this through? What do you need from the public?
We need funding. I used to be afraid to ask for that. Was kind of raised that you don't ask for that. That's part of the reason I used my own in the beginning. But I've come to learn that a friend of mine said, when money meets mission, ministry happens. It can't happen without both. I've also learned that money is just a tool.
It is a tool.
It's a tool I don't have, but some people do have. But what I do have is compassion. What I do have is the ability to design. What I do have is the ability to create relationships and to help open doors. What we have as a team that goes in is a love for others to build these relationships.
So how many rooms a year do you want to do? What is your goal?
I think our goal would be to do at least 6 rooms and maybe 4 bedrooms in a box. That would be ideal for us. The problem is, if we don't have enough funding, it takes us longer. If we have funding, wow. I mean, the sky's the limit.
I think we should double that goal.
Oh, wow. Okay, Lance.
Really, it's a big dream, so let's dream big. So,
Okay.
and what's the cost per room? What have you figured through your trial and error it costs to do one room for a child?
When we, from start to finish, just all the connections and the running and the doing and the purchasing and the reinventing and the painting and the sanding and all of that, we've kind of estimated about $1,000 to do the room.
Okay.
But that's, we don't have employees at this point. We don't.
Right. It's all your love of labor.
Yeah.
You're volunteering your time, your gas, all that. So $1,000.
Well, we sometimes ask people for cards for gas and that sort of thing to help us be able. We do a lot of running.
I bet. So $1,000, and you want to do? Why don't we say 3 a month? 36.
Oh my goodness, Lance! I don't know if that's possible.
You got to dream big.
No, we have to dream big, but you have to realize, and you have to realize one thing. I have to say this. As an artist, kind of like your friend was saying, we do dream big, but we also want that space to be the best it can possibly be. The amount of time that we spend looking for the perfect things, finding an inspiration piece.
But all that changes when you have money.
But that money would have to pay for volunteers, because for me to do it on my own, I wouldn't be able to.
Not necessarily. I think you have to,
or with my small team.
You have to change the way you look at it. Because if let's say you did have $36,000 at your disposal, if you went into that yard sale or that estate sale and you saw all these great things, you would be able to buy more items for more people and put them away. Okay, this one's gonna go to Billy.
Yes.
This one's gonna go to Sarah.
Yes.
This one's gonna go. So you just have to change the way you're looking at things.
Yes. Yes.
So the goal is $36,000.
Wow.
To do 36
Fantastic.
rooms next year for 2020. How do people find you?
They find us at roomforrestoration.com. You can email me at roomforrestoration@gmail.com.
You have videos up on your website?
We have lots of videos. We actually have more videos on Facebook. Okay. So facebook.com/roomforrestoration. If people would like to volunteer their time to help us.
What about items?
It's difficult. And to backtrack a little on what you said, because I'm not arguing, that would be fantastic. But because it's custom designed for the child, sometimes it is hard to buy too much. But
see, what I'm saying is you're thinking it all wrong. You have 4 kids that you're shopping for, or 6 kids, or 10 kids you're shopping for.
And we've got more help, and we've got more funding, and we've got more. Okay.
All that. You got some volunteers.
Yes, it could be huge.
People who are good at painting and fixing, and
the ability to bring more people in.
You got to bring the community in.
We would love to have the community.
So is your phone number on the website?
I believe so, but I'll give it to you. 209-663-7258. Yes.
Let's dream big.
I mean, if one person that needed a good write-off for the year saw the value in what we could do,
they could just cut you a $36,000.
They could just cut me a $36,000 check.
And let's add that you're a full nonprofit 501c3,
we are a 501c3.
So it's fully tax deductible.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Cassandra Vera, Room for Restoration, changing lives. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lance.
Okay. Appreciate you. We're trying to get you on for a while, so this is good.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.